1 inch of armor. That SAL that stood between Sergeant Henry Hartman and a 75mm German shell traveling at 3,000 feet per second, 1 inch. The Germans called his M18 Hellcat the tin can. American tank crews had another name for it, the paper coffin. September 19, 1944, 064, 2 hours. 3 miles east of Arracourt, France. Hartman crouched in his turret, watching fog roll across the fields like a burial shroud. Intelligence had just confirmed the worst possible news. The German 113th Panzer Brigade was moving toward his position. 45 brand new Panther tanks, each one a rolling fortress of German steel. The math was simple, brutal. The Panther carried 5.5 inches of frontal armor. Hartman's entire tank destroyer had 1 inch maximum. The floor beneath his feet measured less than 5 millimeters thick. A German machine gun could punch through the sides. The open-topped turret left them exposed to everything: grenades, mortars, artillery, snipers. One well-placed round, and the crew would burn alive. But the M18 had one advantage the Germans couldn't match: speed. 55 miles per hour on open road, twice as fast as a Sherman, 3 times faster than a Tiger. The Army called it Tank Destroyer Doctrine: speed over armor, hit and run, flank and kill, never stand and fight. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion landed at Utah Beach 68 days ago. First unit in Europe equipped with M18s, they were supposed to revolutionize armored warfare: mobile, lethal, unstoppable. In 68 days, they'd knocked out 93 German vehicles. They'd also lost 18 M18s, destroyed, 22 damaged, 41 men killed, 73 wounded. The Panthers were the worst. That 75mm gun could penetrate an M18 from 2,000 meters away. The M18's 76mm gun couldn't penetrate a Panther's frontal armor at any range, not even point blank. The only way to kill a Panther was hitting the thinner side or rear armor, which meant getting close, which meant dying. Third Army intelligence estimated 40% of all tank destroyer crews became casualties within 90 days of combat. The 704th was already past that average. Company C had lost 6 M18s in 3 weeks, 19 men killed, 8 wounded. Every morning brought new names on the casualty list. Every afternoon brought orders to advance. The fog thickened. Visibility dropped to 30 feet. The radio crackled. Lieutenant Edwin Leeper's voice cut through the static. German armor spotted, Panthers moving toward. Hartman's platoon takes point. For M18s against 45 Panthers in fog so thick, Hartman couldn't see 30 feet ahead. His thin armor was about to face the most feared tank in the German army at point-blank range. At 0658, Hartman's M18 rolled forward. The Continental R975 engine roared, 9 cylinders, pushing 19 tons of American steel. The platoon moved in tight formation, 20-meter spacing. The fog swallowed everything. Hartman could barely see the vehicle ahead. Intelligence reported the entire 113th Panzer Brigade was launching a counterattack. 2 fresh Panzer Brigades, 90 Panthers total, brand new from the factory. The German High Command wanted to push Patton's Third Army back across the Moselle River. They were willing to sacrifice everything to do it. The Panther was 45 tons of engineering perfection. Sloped frontal armor, long-barreled 75mm gun. That gun could kill a Sherman at 3,000 meters. The armor could stop American tank rounds at point-blank range. But the M18 was different. 19 tons. Open turret. Speed. The designers sacrificed everything for velocity. Crew survival depended entirely on not getting hit. Tank destroyer doctrine called for ambush tactics. Find cover, wait for German armor. Fire, destroy, relocate before return fire. But doctrine assumed visibility. Clear fields of fire. Time to maneuver. The fog eliminated everything. At 0712, the platoon reached a crossroads. Leeper took point. Hartman moved second. 2 more Hellcats followed. They crawled forward at 15 miles per hour. The fog showed no sign of lifting. Hartman checked his ammunition, 45 rounds, mix of armor-piercing and high-explosive. The M62 armor-piercing shell could penetrate 88 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters. Against a Panther's frontal plate, it would bounce. Against the side, it might penetrate. Against the rear, it would kill. The equation was simple: speed versus armor, mobility versus protection. The M18 bet everything on speed. The radio crackled contact front German armor, range unknown, visibility 30 feet. Leaper's voice steady. All vehicles hold position. Prepare to engage. Somewhere ahead, Panther tanks were moving toward them. The fastest tank destroyer in the war was about to fight the most heavily armored tank in Europe, at point-blank range, in zero visibility, 30 feet ahead, emerging from the fog like a ghost, a Panther. The German tank moved slowly, searching for targets. The crew had no idea for American tank destroyers were waiting. Leaper deployed the platoon. Hand signals, no radio. The 4 M18s spread out, 40-meter spacing. Each Hellcat picked a firing position. Hartman's driver maneuvered left. 10 meters, stopped. The gunner traversed the turret. The loader slammed an armor-piercing round into the breach. The Panther kept advancing. 25 feet, the German commander stood in his cupola, scanning the fog. He never saw the M18. Leaper fired first. The 76mm gun cracked the armor-piercing round, hit the Panther's side armor at 90 degrees. Perfect angle. The shell penetrated. The German tank lurched. Smoke poured from the engine deck. The crew bailed out. 5 seconds later, a second Panther appeared. Same direction, same slow advance. Hartman's gunner fired. The round hit low, penetrated the running gear. The Panther stopped. Track destroyed. The turret began to traverse. Hartman's loader already had another round ready. The gunner fired again. Turret ring. The Panther's gun froze. The crew abandoned the vehicle. 2 Panthers destroyed 2 minutes. 0 American casualties. Then the fog shifted. Wind from the east. Visibility increased to 50 feet. Hartman saw what they were facing. Panthers, dozens of them, spread across the field. The entire 113th Panzer Brigade advancing in column formation. No flanking security, no reconnaissance. Just a straight advance through the fog. The German tanks were blind, moving at 20 feet visibility. They had no idea American tank destroyers were already in position. The 113th Panzer Brigade was driving into an ambush. Leaper's platoon opened fire. For M18's rapid engagement, the Hellcats fired from different positions. The Germans couldn't locate the source. Panther after Panther took hits. Side armor, rear armor, engine decks, ammunition storage. The German tanks began exploding. The 113th tried to return fire. Panther guns swung toward suspected American positions, but the fog made targeting impossible. German rounds flew wild. High explosive shells detonated in empty fields. Not one German round found an M18. Hartman's crew worked like a machine. The loader could cycle rounds in 8 seconds. Armor piercing, high. Explosive armor piercing. The gunner tracked targets through fog, range 30 to 60 feet. Point blank, every shot penetrated. The M18's thin armor didn't matter because the Germans couldn't see them to shoot back. By 0724, Leaper's platoon had knocked out 15 German tanks. 5 minutes of combat, 15 Panthers destroyed. 0 M18s lost to German fire. Then the radio crackled, Company C moving up. Captain Tom Evans bringing 8 additional M18s. The Germans were about to face the entire company. Hartman spotted 6 more Panthers emerging from the fog, heading straight toward his position. 6 against 1, 30 feet of visibility, 23 rounds remaining. Hartman made a decision. Attack. The M18's speed was useless in fog. Armor meant nothing at this range. The only advantage was surprise. The Germans didn't know where he was. His driver accelerated. The Hellcat surged forward, 30 miles per hour through the fog. The 6 Panthers moved in single file, 50-foot spacing, standard German column formation. The lead Panther was 70 feet ahead. Hartman's gunner acquired the target. First shot, 726. Range 60 feet, side armor. The round penetrated behind the turret. The Panther stopped. Smoke. The crew bailed out. The other 5 Panthers kept moving. They hadn't heard the shot over their engine noise. Hartman's M18 shifted position. 20 feet right, the driver kept the engine running. The second Panther appeared. Hartman's gunner fired. 8 seconds from the previous shot. The armor-piercing round hit the running gear. Track destroyed. The German tank lurched sideways. Hartman's loader had another round ready. The gunner fired again. Turret ring. The Panther's gun froze. 2 down, 4 Panthers, still moving, still blind. The M18 relocated 40 feet forward, 10 feet left. The driver positioned behind a low stone wall. Minimal cover, enough to break the vehicle's silhouette. The 3rd Panther rolled past, 20 feet away, completely unaware. Hartman's gunner waited, let the German tank pass, then fired into the rear armor. The weakest point, 18 millimeters of steel. The M62 round punched through, detonated the ammunition. The Panther exploded. 3 down, 3 Panthers remaining. The 4th Panther commander finally realized something was wrong. His column had lost 3 tanks in 90 seconds. No visible enemy, no return fire, just explosions in the fog. The Panther stopped. The turret rotated, searching for targets. Hartman's driver moved the M18 again, full speed. The Hellcat circled right, 50 feet. The gunner kept the German tank in sight, waited for the angle. The Panther's side armor came into view. The gunner fired. Direct hit, the German tank began burning. For down, 2 Panthers left. The remaining German tanks panicked. Both Panthers reversed. German doctrine called for immediate withdrawal when ambushed. But reversing in fog was suicide. The 2 Panthers couldn't see where they were going. Hartman's M18 pursued, 30 miles per hour, closing distance. The 5th Panther backed into a drainage ditch. The tank tilted, stuck. Hartman's gunner fired. Side shot. The armor-piercing round penetrated the fuel tank. The Panther erupted in flames, 5 down. 1 Panther, remaining the last German tank, was retreating faster now. 40 feet, 50 feet, disappearing into fog. Hartman's driver gave chase. The M18 could hit 55 miles per hour in ideal conditions. In fog, on rough ground, they managed 35 enough. The Panther came back into view, 60 feet, still reversing. The commander stood in the cupola, looking backward, trying to navigate blind. Hartman's gunner fired. The round hit the Panther's rear armor, penetrated the engine compartment. The German tank stopped dead. The crew abandoned the vehicle. 6 men running into the fog, 6 Panthers destroyed. Hartman's M18, 4 minutes of combat, 23 rounds down to 17. 0 damage to the Hellcat. And somewhere in the fog, 30 more German tanks were still advancing. Captain Tom Evans arrived with Company C at 0732. 8 more M18s. 12 tank destroyers total. The fog was lifting. Visibility increased to 100 feet. Everyone could see the battlefield now. Burning Panthers. 21 of them spread across 300 meters. Black smoke rising into the morning sky. German crews scouted across the fields. Some wounded, some surrendering. Most running east toward their own lines. The 113th Panzer Brigade had driven straight into an ambush, lost half a company in 12 minutes. But the Germans weren't retreating. More Panthers were advancing. The 113th started the morning with 45 tanks. 21 were destroyed. 24 were still operational. And those 24 were spreading out. Trying to flank Company C's position, Evans deployed his tank destroyers in a defensive arc. 12 M18s 400 meters wide. Each Hellcat had a designated kill zone. Overlapping fields of fire. The fog was burning off fast. By 0800, visibility would be 500 meters. Long enough for Panther guns to be effective. Long enough for German gunners to target the M18's thin armor. The math had changed. At 300 meters, a Panther could penetrate an M18 anywhere. Front, side, rear. The 1-inch armor was useless. But at 300 meters, an M18 could penetrate a Panther's side armor. Not the front. Never the front. But the sides were vulnerable. And Company C had 12 guns. The Germans attacked at 0748, 24 Panthers. 3 columns, 8 tanks per column. The center column drove toward Company C. The left and right columns tried to envelop the flanks. Standard German armor tactics. Evans had prepared for this. His M18s weren't sitting still. Tank destroyer doctrine emphasized mobility, fire, and move. Never stay in one position. The moment a Hellcat fired, the driver relocated. 20 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. The Germans couldn't track the moving targets. Hartman's crew was exhausted. 4 minutes of intense combat, 6 Panthers destroyed, 17 rounds left. The gunner's hands shook, the loader's shoulder ached, the driver's eyes burned, but they kept fighting. The first German column hit Company C's center. 4 M18s opened fire. range 250 meters. The Panthers returned fire immediately. 75mm guns, high-velocity armor-piercing rounds, but the fog and smoke made targeting impossible. Most German shots missed, the American shots didn't. 12 M18s firing from different positions. Moving constantly, the Germans couldn't establish firing solutions. Panther after Panther took hits, side armor, track assemblies, engine decks. 2 Panthers exploded when armor-piercing rounds detonated their ammunition. By 0800, the fog had lifted completely. Visibility unlimited. The scale of the German defeat became clear. 31 Panthers destroyed, 14 still fighting. Company C had lost 3 M18s, 2 to German fire, 1 to mechanical failure. 9 Hellcats remained operational. The 113th Panzer Brigade broke. The 14 surviving Panthers withdrew. The German tanks reversed, turned, fled east. American tank destroyers pursued. Range increased to 400 meters, 500 meters. The M18s kept firing. 2 more Panthers destroyed during the retreat. By 0815, the Battle of Arracourt was over. 33 German tanks destroyed, 14 escaped. Company C lost 3 M18s, 7 men killed, 11 wounded, and Sergeant Henry Hartman had personally destroyed 6 Panthers in 4 minutes of combat at point-blank range, with a tank that had 1 inch of armor. Battalion headquarters received the combat reports at 090033, Panthers destroyed, 3 M18s lost. The kill-to-lose ratio was 11-1. No American tank unit in Europe had ever achieved those numbers against Panther tanks. Third Army intelligence wanted confirmation. Battalion commanders wanted proof. Some officers refused to believe the reports. Paper-armored tank destroyers killing the most heavily armored tanks in the German military seemed impossible. Captain Evans provided evidence. Battlefield photographs, crew testimonies, ammunition counts. Hartman's M18 had fired 28 rounds. 6 Panthers destroyed. 22 rounds hit targets. 6 achieved kills. The efficiency was extraordinary. Most tank battles saw hit rates below 30%. Hartman's crew achieved 78%. The numbers convinced the skeptics, but they raised questions. How did tank destroyers with 1 inch of armor survive point-blank combat against Panthers? The answer was fog. Visibility limited to 30 feet. German gunners couldn't target what they couldn't see. American crews used the fog as armor. They maneuvered constantly, fired from unexpected angles, relocated before German guns could respond. Tank destroyer doctrine emphasized exactly this approach: ambush tactics, rapid repositioning, never stand and fight. The M18 was designed for hit-and-run warfare. The Battle of Arracourt demonstrated another truth: training mattered. The 113th Panzer Brigade crews were inexperienced. Most had fewer than 10 days in their Panthers. They didn't know how to fight in fog. They didn't maintain proper spacing. They didn't use reconnaissance. They drove in column formation through unknown terrain against an unseen enemy. Every mistake proved fatal. Company C crews were different. The 704th had trained for 18 months before landing in France. They practiced ambush tactics, rapid-fire drills, emergency relocations. The loader teams could cycle rounds in 7 to 9 seconds. The drivers could execute combat maneuvers at full speed. The gunners could engage targets in zero visibility. That training saved lives. Intelligence reported German reinforcements, the 111th Panzer Brigade, 45 more Panthers, moving toward Arracourt. Expected contact by 1400 hours. Company C had 9 operational M18s. Battalion headquarters promised reinforcements, 8 more Hellcats. But they wouldn't arrive until 1600 hours. Too late. Evans made a decision. Company C would delay the German advance, establish ambush positions, use the same tactics that worked this morning: hit and run, kill and relocate. 9 M18s against 45 Panthers. The 111th Panzer Brigade attacked at 1320 45 Panthers, 3 battle groups, 15 tanks each. They advanced in line formation, 200-meter spacing between groups. The German commanders had studied this morning's disaster. They weren't repeating the 113th's mistakes. Company C occupied positions along a ridgeline west of Arracourt. 9 M18s hold down positions. Only the turrets visible above the crest. Evans spread his tank destroyers across 800 meters. Each crew had designated kill zones and withdrawal routes. The German tanks crossed the 400-meter line at 1328. Company C held fire. Evans wanted them closer, 350 meters, 300 meters at 250 meters. The M18s opened fire. 9 guns. Simultaneous engagement. The first volley hit 6 Panthers, 3 kills, 3 mobility kills. The German advance stopped. The Panthers returned fire immediately. 45 guns, massive firepower. Most shots went high. The M18s were hauled down, small targets. But 3 rounds found targets. 1 M18 destroyed, turret blown off, crew killed instantly. Another Hellcat damaged. 7 M18s remained operational. 42 Panthers still fighting. Evans ordered withdrawal. Company C reversed down the slope. The M18s disappeared behind the ridge, relocated 400 meters west, found new hold-down positions. The entire maneuver took 90 seconds. When the German tanks crested the ridge, the American tank destroyers were gone. The Panthers advanced cautiously. They moved in bounds. 1 group advanced while 2 provided overwatch. The 111th Panzer Brigade was well trained. At 1345, the Germans reached the second ridgeline. Company C was waiting. 7 M18s, new positions, new angles. The Hellcats opened fire at 300 meters. The second volley destroyed 5 Panthers, 2 more mobility kills. The Germans responded with concentrated fire. 2 more M18s hit, 1 destroyed, 1 damaged. 5 M18s left 35 Panthers operational. Evans pulled back again. Same tactic. Reverse, relocate, find cover. The M18s withdrew to pre-planned positions near Arracourt. Urban terrain, buildings, narrow streets, close quarters. The Panthers would have to enter the town to finish the fight, and urban combat favored defenders. The German attack reached Arracourt's outskirts at 1430. 35 Panthers, Company C, had 5 operational M18s. The odds were 7-1. But the terrain had changed. Urban warfare. Buildings restricted movement. Streets channeled advance routes. Stone walls provided cover. The M18's speed advantage was neutralized. But so was the Panthers' armor advantage. In close quarters, side shots were easier. Rear shots were possible. Evans positioned his 5 tank destroyers at key intersections, interlocking fire, escape routes through alleys. The Germans would have to advance down main streets, exposed flanks, vulnerable rear quarters. The first Panthers entered Arracourt at 1442, 8 tanks moving down Rue d'Oigny. Hartman's M18 was positioned in an alley perpendicular to the German advance, perfect 90-degree angle. The lead Panther rolled past. Hartman's gunner waited, let 3 Panthers pass, then fired at the 4th tank, side shot, 200 feet. The armor-piercing round penetrated. The Panther exploded, blocked the street, trapped the 3 Panthers behind it. Company C destroyed 6 Panthers in Arracourt's streets, lost 1 M18, 4 Hellcats remained. 29 German tanks withdrew. The 111th Panzer Brigade had lost 16 tanks. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion had lost 6 M18s since dawn. But they had destroyed 49 Panthers in one day. General George Patton visited Company C's command post on September 20th. He wanted to see the tank destroyers that killed 49 Panthers. Patton walked among the M18s, examined the thin armor, talked to the crews. He asked Hartman how a 1-inch tank destroyed 6 Panthers at point-blank range. Hartman told him the truth: fog, speed, training, and luck. Patton promoted Captain Tom Evans to Major, awarded him the Distinguished Service Cross. But every man in Company C knew who really won the battle: the loaders who cycled rounds in 8 seconds, the gunners who hit targets in 0 visibility, the drivers who maneuvered under fire, and men like Hartman who destroyed 6 Panthers with a tank everyone called a death trap. The Battle of Arracourt continued for 3 more days, September 19th through 22nd. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion fought the entire 5th Panzer Army. German records confirmed the Americans destroyed 281 armored vehicles: Panthers, Panzer, IVS, self-propelled guns, tank destroyers. The 704th lost 7 M18s destroyed, 14 damaged, 23 men killed, 41 wounded. The kill ratio was 40-1. Military historians later called Arracourt the the largest tank battle on the Western Front in 1944, larger than Normandy. Larger than the Bulge engagements that came later, the Americans won decisively. German 5th Panzer Army withdrew. Patton's 3rd Army continued advancing toward Germany, and the M18 Hellcat earned its reputation as the most effective tank destroyer in Europe. Sergeant Henry Hartman survived the war. He fought with the 704th through France, Belgium, Germany. The battalion crossed the Rhine in March 1945, reached Czechoslovakia in May. Hartman's crew destroyed 14 German armored vehicles, total 6 at Arracourt, 8 in subsequent battles, minor damage each time. The crew repaired the vehicle and kept fighting. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion was deactivated in November 1945. The men went home. Hartman returned to civilian life. He rarely discussed the war, never claimed hero status. When people asked about Arracourt, he emphasized his crew. 5 men working together. Training and teamwork won battles, not individual courage. The M18 Hellcat remained in service until 1953. The Army retired tank destroyer battalions after the war, but the Hellcat proved the doctrine worked. Speed could defeat armor, mobility could overcome firepower. Company C's performance at Arracourt validated everything tank destroyer advocates believed. Light armor, high speed, aggressive tactics, hit and run. The critics who called the M18 a paper coffin were wrong. The crews who learned to use speed as armor were right, and men like Hartman proved that training and tactics matter more than technical specifications. Today, a memorial stands in Arracourt honoring the 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion. The inscription describes their role in the town's liberation. September 1944, American tank destroyers defeated German armored forces, saved thousands of civilian lives, helped end the war. 1 inch of armor against the most feared tanks in the German army. And they won.